poor box. You can't know how I dreaded appearing in school in those miserable poor box dresses. I was perfectly sure to be put down in class next to the girl who first owned my dress, and she would whisper and giggle and point it out to the others. The bitterness of wearing your enemy's cast-off clothes eats into your soul. If I wore silk stockings for the rest of my life, I don't believe I could obliterate the scar. Latest War Bulletin. News from the scene of action. At the fourth watch on Thursday, the 13th of November, Hannibal routed the advance guard of the Romans and led the Carthaginian forces over the mountains into the plains of Casilinum. A cohort of light-armed Numidians engaged the infantry of Quintus Fabius Maximus. 2 battles and light skirmishing. Romans repulsed with heavy losses. I have the honor of being your special correspondent from the front, J. Abbott. P.S. I know I'm not to expect any letters in return, and I've been warned not to bother you with questions, but tell me, Daddy, just this once, are you awfully old, or just a little old? And are you perfectly bald, or just a little bald? It's very difficult thinking about you in the abstract, like a theorem in geometry. Given a tall, rich man who hates girls, but is very generous to one quite impertinent girl, what does he look like? RSVP. 19th December. Dear Daddy Longlegs, you never answered my question, and it is very important. Are you bald? I have it planned exactly what you look like, very satisfactorily, until I reach the top of your head, and then I am stuck. I can't decide whether you have white hair, or black hair, or a sort of sprinkly gray hair, or maybe none at all. Here is your portrait. But the problem is, shall I add some hair? Would you like to know what color your eyes are? They're gray, and your eyebrows stick out like a porch roof. Beetling, they're called in novels. And your mouth is a straight line with a tendency to turn down at the corners. Oh, you see, I know. You're a snappy old thing with a temper. Chapel bell. 9:45 p.m. I have a new unbreakable rule. Never, never to study at night, no matter how many written reviews are coming in the morning. Instead, I read just plain books. I have to, you know, because there are 18 blank years behind me. You wouldn't believe, Daddy, what a great abyss of ignorance my mind is. I'm just realizing the depths myself. The things that most girls with a properly assorted family and a home and friends and a library know by absorption, I've never heard of. For example, I never read Mother Goose, or David Copperfield, or Ivanhoe, or Cinderella, or Bluebeard, or Robinson Crusoe, or Jane Eyre, or Alice in Wonderland, or a word of Rudyard Kipling. I didn't know that Henry VIII was married more than once, or that Shelley was a poet. I didn't know that people used to be monkeys, and that the Garden of Eden was a beautiful myth. I didn't know that RLS stood for Robert Louis Stevenson, or that George Eliot was a lady. I had never seen a picture of the Mona Lisa, and, it's true, but you won't believe it, I had never heard of Sherlock Holmes. Now I know all of these things, and a lot of others besides, but you can see how much I need to catch up. And oh, but it's fun! I look forward all day to evening, and then I put an engaged on the door, and get into my nice red bathrobe and furry slippers, and pile all the cushions behind me on the couch, and light the brass student lamp at my elbow, and read, and read, and read. One book isn't enough. I have 4 going at once. Just now they're Tennyson's poems, and Vanity Fair, and Kipling's Plain Tales, and, don't laugh, Little Women. I find that I'm the only girl in college who wasn't brought up on Little Women. I haven't told anybody, though. That would stamp me as queer. I just quietly went and bought it with $1.12 of my last month's allowance. And the next time someone mentions pickled limes, I'll know what she's talking about. 10 o'clock bell. This is a very interrupted letter. Saturday. Sir, I have the honor to report fresh explorations in the field of geometry. On Friday last we abandoned our former works in parallelepipeds and proceeded to truncated prisms. We are finding the road rough and very uphill. Sunday. The Christmas holidays begin next week and the trunks are up. The corridors are so filled up that you can hardly get through, and everybody is so bubbling over with excitement that studying is getting left out. I'm going to have a beautiful time in vacation. There's another freshman who lives in Texas staying behind, and we're planning to take long walks, and if there's any ice, learn to skate. Then there is still the whole library to be read, and 3 empty weeks to do it in. Goodbye, Daddy. I hope you are feeling as happy as I am. Yours ever, Judy. P.S. Don't forget to answer my question. If you don't want the trouble of writing, have your secretary telegraph. He can just say, Mr. Smith is quite bald, or Mr. Smith is not bald, or Mr. Smith has white hair, and you can deduct the 25 cents out of my allowance. Goodbye till January, and Merry Christmas. Towards the end of the Christmas vacation, exact date unknown. Dear Daddy Longlegs, is it snowing where you are? All the world that I see from my tower is draped in white, and the flakes are coming down as big as popcorns. It's a late afternoon, the sun is just setting, a cold yellow color, behind some colder violet hills, and I'm up in my window seat using the last light to write to you. Your 5 gold pieces were a surprise. I'm not used to receiving Christmas presents. You've already given me such lots of things, everything I have, you know, that I don't quite feel that I deserve extra. But I like them just the same. Do you want to know what I bought with my money? Number 1, a silver watch and a leather case to wear on my wrist and get me to recitations on time. Number 2, Matthew Arnold's poems. Number 3, a hot water bottle. Number 4, a steamer rug. My tower is cold. Number 5, 500 sheets of yellow manuscript paper. I'm going to commence being an author pretty soon. Number 6, a dictionary of synonyms, to enlarge the author's vocabulary. Number 7, I don't much like to confess this last item, but I will, a pair of silk stockings. And now, Daddy, don't say I don't tell all. It was a very low motive, if you must know, that prompted the silk stockings. Julia Pendleton comes into my room to do geometry, and she sits cross-legged on the couch and wears silk stockings every night. But just wait. As soon as she gets back from vacation, I shall go in and sit on her couch in my silk stockings. You see, Daddy, the miserable creature that I am, but at least I'm honest. And you knew already, from my asylum record, that I wasn't perfect, didn't you? To capitulate. That's the way the English instructor begins every other sentence. I am very much obliged for my 7 presents. I'm pretending to myself that they came in a box from my family in California. The watch is from Father, the rug from Mother, the hot water bottle from Grandmother, who is always worrying for fear I shall catch cold in this climate, and the yellow paper from my little brother Harry. My sister Isabel gave me the silk stockings, and Aunt Susan the Matthew Arnold poems. Uncle Harry, little Harry's named after him, gave me the dictionary. He wanted to send chocolates, but I insisted on synonyms. You don't object, do you, to playing the part of a composite family? And now shall I tell you about my vacation, or are you only interested in my education as such? I hope you appreciate